this is Mama Gina, and continuing my conversation with my coolest of friends, all of my friends who create, whether it's music, some type of other art. And tonight I get to chat with Louis Garou, who is one of the finest songwriters I know in the vein of, like, I don't know what you'd call it, but gothic kind of dark stuff. He is the wolf at the door. And so, Louis, welcome. And why don't you tell everybody about yourself? Introduce yourself and tell people what you do.
I'm Louis Garou. I was raised and lived in the shadows of the Appalachians my entire life until now. And what I call my music is Dark Americana.
I like it.
Okay. And I take that as incredibly high praise and a compliment coming from you. So, uh, that being said, I don't know what else to tell you about myself. I live, I write. Before COVID, I was doing events, and now I'm just waiting to do events again.
Yeah, indeed. I think we all are waiting for that. Yeah. So the whole idea behind these conversations is to share our creative processes with other
Right.
people. I'm just plain curious because the thing that motivates me is finding out what motivates other people, which is kind of conundrum in itself. But I'm always interested because my creative process is really bizarre. And so I like to hear other people's processes. So talk to me about where your ideas come from and how they flow into your music.
I've been thinking about that since you asked me to do this. I hadn't really ever given it a lot of thought,
Cool.
and I don't have a stock answer because my ideas come from different places and I work from different directions. Um, the the biggest thing is that I just get little snatches of an idea, and I finally learned to always have a notebook and something to write with to write that down. And I've got notebooks full of like one line, which I occasionally go through and look, and something speaks to me, and I will use that. There are dark things that I started to see after I had my little medical emergency a few years ago that you're
Ah,
familiar with, and voices that I wasn't hearing before I hear now. Because like a lot of people, I do hear voices. Like a lot of people, though, I understand they're not real. Probably,
yeah,
maybe.
that's where you and I differ.
But we're I'm
My,
not done. I'm not done with that flow yet, though. Um, the thing I want to tell you about is I began to experience a couple of years ago. I had moved out from where I live, as you know, and
hmm
moved into this little cabin which had no furniture, no running water, and it was not really a cabin; it was a shack. And so I had cleaned the place up and went in and I sat down, and it was getting dark. I had nothing but the old wooden chair that I carry around with me everywhere and sit in when I play. And I was sitting there and I was just thinking, and I started writing, and I wasn't conscious of any thoughts that I had. But about 10 minutes later, I had finished probably the best song that I have ever done,
wow.
and I'm very happy with that song. But it has led on to other songs. But since that time, I have had the same thing happen that I get an idea to write, and it's just like automatic writing, like somebody else is doing it, and they always turn out to be about the same thing, and they're not all in E minor.
You're so
So,
funny.
but that song I was talking about was not in E minor either. It doesn't have any minors in it at all. But one of my friends down in Florida, who's a music critic, he said it's weird. He said, "Listen, you sing that because," he said, "it sounds like you're singing in a minor key." But he said, "I recognize that there are no minors in the song." And so
Interesting.
I'm not sure whether it's a compliment or not, but we'll
No,
go with
I
it.
actually I think that's really cool. There's a device I use sometimes where I'm using all major chords, but I'm singing the minor against them. And
Mm-hmm.
I tend to do it intentionally if I'm going to do it. But it certainly the first few times it happened by accident. And I kind of went, oh, I kind of like that. That
It
kind
has a
of,
dark feel to it.
yeah, it really does. It's like the world is great. There's something really weird in here, kind of feel. Yeah, yeah.
Well, when you write a song, do you just like write it and it's done, or do you go back and reread it and edit it and reread it and
Oh, you know what? I have stacks of notebooks like you do. I have a really bad notebook habit. Um, and I have stacks of notebooks with just line or two on every page. And there have been times that I have written so just a download of lyrics that just came through, like you were talking about the automatic writing, and then I didn't find them again for 3 years, and then suddenly the song happens. Yeah, and or it could be, oh my gosh, this is a song and it's 30 minutes after I just got the idea. So I never really know where that's going to go. I've learned to just kind of relax into it, and if I get blocked, I get blocked. That's why I have notebooks with all the words in them. Yeah, yeah, I totally approach this from every angle too. You know,
okay? Well,
and I never know. Um, Sometimes I don't know where the song is going until, and even after it's written, until I've actually played it on stage for 100 times. Because I have a rule that a song isn't really a song until I've played it 100 times for people. Because that's where all the slipping and the sliding and the, oh, I'm gonna, oh, wait, that works better there, and you know what I'm saying. It's like once I think I've written it, I haven't really written it yet.
well, I do the same thing. I record the stuff and go back and listen to it several times, and sometimes I'm happy with what I've got, but a lot of times I'm like, okay, that line does not make any damn sense. And you have to go back and hit that line or that line and think about the phrasing and things like that. And it's an ongoing process. And sometimes I'll take a song that I've been doing for years and think I just really don't like the way that's going and rewrite it. I've got one you I think you've heard it. I wrote it in 1977.
Wow.
I redid it in I think it's 2009. I still do it. I love the song, but I had to change it because when I went back and listened to it, it sounded like I wrote it in 1977.
Aha. Yes, yes, yes. We grow and change, and our art is static until we breathe life into it again. I hear you completely.
And it's just it's an ongoing process, and I try to write every day, but because it's such a I'm not even sure what the right word is for this because it doesn't happen all the time. I can't sit down here at a desk with a notebook and a pen and say I'm going to write a song and write a song because I'll just sit here like a lump. It's generally at 70 miles an hour on the interstate when I become inspired, you know, and so
Yeah.
I have to get somewhere and get that written down, and I can't
There
write
is,
as fast as I come up with stuff.
yeah, you know what? There is something about the sounds of the wheels on on the road.
Right.
And I don't use my AC in my vehicle very much because it burns more gas and I just don't do it. I've got an old vehicle. And so I always drive with the windows down. And
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of white noise that's coming at you when you're on long
Right.
drives, I think that it just kind of clears a passageway for stuff to come through because I find that I get a lot of ideas when I'm driving, and
Mm-hmm.
I have my stack of notebooks
Right there.
always available in my passenger seat along with my overnight bag and all that kind of stuff. And if I start getting an idea, I I take the next exit and park and throw it all into the notebook. And I've done it for years because otherwise it might be gone by the time I get where I'm going.
I don't even wait till the exit. I'll pull right off and get in the grass if it's not muddy. And I had a state trooper pull over behind me one day, and he came up and he's like, I was in the van then, work door up, and he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." And here I am. I've got my notebook and my pen, and
He thought you were the Unabomber.
He said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm a songwriter. And I said, I had an inspiration for a song. He said, what you got? And so I started reading it to him. And he's like, well, you are a songwriter. And I was like, yeah. He said, well, okay. And he didn't ask for my license or anything. He just, he was gone. It kind of freaked me out.
I guess so. That is awesome. What a great story.
And generally, if I have any doings with the police, they want a CID because apparently I'm kind of shady looking and, suspicious on the side of the interstate, a van load of unidentifiable equipment in the back.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've got one more thing, though, that I missed. I needed an outline for this. I probably get more ideas for songs at night. I will wake up from a dream and I've got the notebook right there and scribble something down that hopefully in the morning I'll be able to read it and recreate it. But some of my best songs have come like that from just something that happened in a dream.
That's amazing. Well, and that explains some of the more dark nature of some of your stuff too, which I just love. I remember sitting down with you that first time. Has it been even two? It's probably been 3 years.
Yeah, Mystic South.
Yeah, we were at Mystic South, and I was like, I've heard a little bit about this guy, and sat down and you played, and I was like, he's got something really, really cool going on here. I mean, you've got a real signature kind of sound, and I know that you can write other things and that you can play other things, but the it's there is definitely, it's unmistakably Louis Garou. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think that everyone that writes has their own signature. I mean, it's like you. Your stuff is unmistakably Mama Gina. And I love your stuff. And Brian Hinkie.
Oh yeah.
There's nobody else that sounds like Brian Hinkie. His music is his signature. And I think a lot of that is because we don't really listen to mainstream music.
True.
And I don't listen to other pagan musicians. It's like I've listened to you in concert, I've listened to Brian in concert, I've played with both of you, but I don't ever listen to recordings because I'm so afraid that this little sponge that I have will pick up a line or pick up something, and I don't ever want to be in a situation where somebody says, "Hey, that's the line of my song," and so I don't. So I'm caught up in my little world of what goes on in my brain and what I've gotten over the years. Because when I grew up, I'm a little older than you. I
Not
grew up
not much.
in a household in the South where there were two things that you listened to. You listened to country music, or my mom had her Elvis records.
Uh-huh.
And so I grew up listening to Johnny Cash, and it made a huge um, it had a huge effect on me as far as music, but also his demeanor, that whole dark gothic country thing that he actually invented, and nobody gives him any credit for. That's my opinion. And all the country stuff that goes on these days, the dark country that's out there, and there is some, that all traces back to Cash.
Yeah.
And my favorite Johnny Cash song is his rendition of Kurt Reznor, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes,
Kurt.
yes.
Oh
Oh,
God, I love that song.
that
But
makes me weep every time I hear it.
it makes me weep when I cry when I sing it. And so anyway, that's just, you wanted an overview of who I am and what I do. That's it.
I
And
love that. Yeah, that sensibility of, I can actually, I can connect those dots between you and Cash and all of that, cuz yeah, definitely, you know.
well,
Um
the other influence was John Prine. I've been
oh,
listening to him since the '70s, and it
yes.
broke my heart when he died. It really
Yeah.
did. But
Yeah.
I've got a song I wrote a couple of years ago. Somebody had said something, and I'm like, that is a great line. And I wrote it down, and I did the song. And I did one of my little Facebook recordings that I always do,
Yep.
and then I lost it. And I love the song. I really loved it more than I do a lot of the stuff that I write. And again, it wasn't in a minor key. And recently, I found it. So
Oh, that's
I
nice.
reworked it, and it's just the problem that I had with it. It sounded like a John Prine song, the rhythm, the music, and everything. So I had to change it just a little bit so it didn't sound like I was ripping him off. I never want to sound that way. And originality is more important than crowd approval.
Yeah, I hear you. I definitely hear you. I don't listen to much music at all myself. I'm listening to more music in the last few months because I'm actually listening for acoustics and that kind of thing because I'm learning how to mix.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually having to listen to other music to hear balances and what other people do in music, which is very bizarre for me. Um, but mostly, I don't listen to a lot of music because I've got so much in my head that's going all the time. You know, I and I don't want to turn that off because you know, out of the 100 song ideas that I have, you know, in a month, maybe one of them is going to work out. I don't want to miss that one because
Exactly.
I throw a lot of stuff away. I throw away more than 50% of what I write. I'll even finish a song and then go, "Yep, nope," and nobody will ever hear it. I toss so much stuff, so I don't want to miss that one thing that is stellar. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Well,
Wow.
I absolutely do. And it's a weird thing because I know a lot of people, and I know you have this happen. People will ask you, "How do you write songs?"
Yeah.
I might as well say, I've got a magic wand and I wave it and they just appear because you can't really explain it in words. I can't. It just comes, and I'm glad that I have that. I'm glad you have it.
Yeah, I am glad for both of us. I sometimes wonder how people even get through a day without having that creative flow. You know?
I do.
I don't
I absolutely do. It's we'd be like everybody else if we didn't have our imagination.
well, I just I yeah, I mean I can't imagine living without the voices in my head anymore. And there was a time when I was a songwriter and I didn't hear the voices like I hear the voices now, which is a whole nother thing. But there was always this constant, oh, there's a song. Oh, there's somebody says something on a, I'm walking through a grocery store and I hear somebody say something to somebody else. And it's like, oh, I think that's a song in that whole conversation right there. I mean, I'm constantly there. I'm constantly aware of all of that stuff and what I can do with it and how I can condense it into some kind of 4 minute, 5 minute, 6 minute, 7 minute when I'm really feeling myself, how I can condense it. I can take this whole story that I just imagined and condense it into this 4 minute opus that I'm going to take people on this journey for 4 minutes and they're going to go somewhere. They don't always go where I want them to, but they're going to go somewhere as a result of that. And I've never been without that in my whole life. I was literally writing songs in 4th grade and singing them in front of the school. So, and they were horrible, but I was doing it because I always heard those voices. And I can't imagine a life without that.
Well, you think about it that maybe creative people are not completely sane. At least that's what I think.
That's entirely possible, but I'm functional.
Well, I am barely. Sometimes I go to bed at night and I don't have any water and I have to take my medication with whiskey. But
Oh.
I
So
knew
I'm
that I knew that would strike a chord.
Yeah. So and not an E minor. So I have a
Go ahead.
question. Cuz you write this stuff it's dark. I mean, it's about the shadow side of everything. And I mean, you and I both know that that shadow side is necessary. It's how we have survived in our lives. It represents an awful lot, and it's not something to be feared. But that shadow is often grown out of pain or guilt or remorse or fear or something, and then later we learn to wrestle with it, and we learn to make friends with it, and we learn to do all the things that we do as artists. And some of us, it makes us more insane, and some of us balance it out. But how much of that you write is in you when you're writing it?
100%.
Cool. Cool.
And it's like I said, the song that I wrote when I went to the cabin the first night I spent there,
Yeah.
it was absolutely like coming home. I had never written a song quite like that, and I have these characters, just like you have characters,
Yeah.
that I realize I've been writing about them for a long time. I just didn't realize it, and I call the, the female character the darkness, and the male character is the wolf, and
Mhm.
they are reincarnated every lifetime, and they almost always find each other. And the last few years, almost every song has been about them, one way or the other. And I went back and I looked at that song from 1977 because a friend of mine brought this up and said, that song, which is his favorite song, he said, goes completely with these. He said, that song ties completely into these. He said, you've been writing about this same thing, this same couple for all these years. And I'd never realized it. I'd never made that connection. I had to have someone tell me that. And it was kind of emotional to think about that. That
Yeah.
these two characters, and it's a sad story because in every lifetime they try to get one more day together before one of them dies, and they have to go through this whole process again. And it's always like they're never really sure whether this is a blessing or a curse. And no, I may have to write that down.
Yeah. Quick, grab a notebook.
But it's an interesting question that you put before me. It made me think a lot because I didn't want to sound like an idiot getting on here and talking to you when you said, "Well, describe your creative process." And I go, "Oh, I get a pen and a paper and I write stuff down." And I didn't want to sound like that, but I really sometimes I just have to get the pen and the paper and let some of the pressure off.
Right, right, right. Listen, you know what? And it's so funny because in having these conversations, it's really coming home that we do all have a different process. And
Mm-hmm.
some people really do sit down and go, I'm going to write this thing. And they sit down and they write the thing.
I'm, I'm
And,
I'm sure I don't understand how that works,
right.
but
I'm compelled to write this thing and I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. That's kind of where I live.
mm-hmm.
although with my latest venture into learning how to mix audio and all of that, I'm I've never written not on the guitar before,
Right.
but I have at my fingertips right now in my little home studio. I have literally thousands of sounds, and
Right.
all of a sudden, and I've got a keyboard here now, and I have I have a couple different kinds of MIDI controllers, and all of a sudden I have strings, and I have I have sounds from outer space, and I've got all kinds of stuff at my disposal that I can sit down and write not on the guitar, and it's completely changed the architecture of some of my songs because I can write things that I didn't even know I could write. You know what I'm saying?
I
And I
do.
think it's funny because I'm going to get back out on the road late this year, and the only thing I'm going to have with me on the road is my guitar again, right?
Right.
And so I'll go back to writing music in that vein, and it's wonderful, but there's always going to be a part of me now that's going to be like, yeah, but I'm going to spend X amount of time at home so that I can write this other whole new way now that I didn't even know that I could do.
Well, we've reached a point in technology where that we're to that point. It's like you said, I'm going to be out on the road with my guitar playing.
Yep.
And I want to stay true to that, but I've got stuff that I want to do that I need to use effects. Now I've gone another way from you. I went online and looked about, the correct way to mix and master, and there's all kinds of advice, and I read a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of it. And what I decided to do, I went the exact opposite way from you. I decided that I was going to go right back to the way I do things and just record things the way I think that they sound best. And
Awesome.
that's exactly what I do. And I have people tell me, well, sometimes your voice is too loud. I want you to hear my words. I don't care so much about anything.
Right.
I want you to understand every word because that's what's important to me. But by the same token, I don't want it to be unbalanced. And I think I've been doing pretty good for someone with no education on how to do it. That I've taught myself to use all the equipment,
Yep.
and I'm about to strike out. I said I would never do anything electronic again, but I'm hearing some stuff in my mind that I've got to use some of the equipment that I've had for years and make it sound that way. It won't sound that way when I'm back out on the road.
Right, right, right. Like all this stuff that I'm writing and working up for the new CD for She Walks the Stars. It's it's like so electronic, but most of those songs were born on the guitar with just a guitar and my voice. And when I go back out on the road, that's how they're going to be played. I'm not going to drag all the electronics on the road.
Exactly.
I'm gonna make sure that whatever I have, I can sing around a campfire. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Because the songs are still the songs, and it's the words that are important. I want to enhance them in a different way when I'm in the studio. But it's the songs. You're right. The words, for at least for songwriters like us, the words are so important. That's really what I want people to hear. I want them to hear that.
Exactly. You're trying to get something that's inside your head, inside your soul, out there to share. And I feel like, excuse me, I feel like that sometimes some of the stuff we write is like therapy for us because we're not quite to the point of being able to have to go talk to somebody. But if you can record it and you can listen to it and other people can listen to it, it makes you feel a little better.
If you've been to any of my concerts, you've maybe heard me say, "Welcome to my therapy session,"
That's it
because
exactly.
it is therapy. Songwriting is therapy. Performing is therapy. Yeah, most definitely. And again, this is why I can't imagine anybody not having this creative gene, how they even survive in the world, because I write music because I have to get it out of my system. And in doing so, I answer some questions about myself, you know, and face things that I need to face.
Right. And I think that this is a thing with a lot of songwriters. I enjoy getting paid for performing. I enjoy getting paid for my music, but that's
Hell yeah.
not why I do it. I do it because I love it. I do it because I have it in me and I've got to get it out there. And it's more so as I've begun to get older and I realize that I'm not always going to be able to go out on the road. I'm not always going to be able to do what I do. So COVID has really sucked,
Yeah,
killing all the gigs.
it's been an interesting year of introspection, and I decided pretty soon after the COVID thing started how I was going to spend whatever downtime I had. Building the studio and learning how to how to turn all the knobs and all that kind of stuff. Um, because you're right. I mean, I'm not going to be able to be on the road forever either. And if I can have a home studio at some point where I can take in small clients, you know, in those years ahead, that would be
Mhm.
lovely, and still be able to write and record my own stuff and still be able to produce music even if I can't tour. Like I was hardcore touring. Like 9 months out of the year, I was on the road. I didn't come home, right? Sleeping in Walmart parking lots, right?
Very
And
familiar with that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's and I never. I was never unhappy doing it. I love doing it. I kind of get a kick out of it. But I also know that this body is going to slow down at some point, even if I don't want it to, and I'll need to take care of it in
Well,
a
I'm,
different
I'm
way.
trying. I'm trying to take care of mine. I think mine may be a lost cause.
Yeah, you're not supposed to take your meds with whiskey, that's for sure.
That's all I had to drink. But I have started actually getting out and doing something. When I was in my 20s, I started canoeing and being on the water a lot, and I always loved doing that. But I got away from it, and I bought a canoe and bought a couple of kayaks, and so I've been going out and paddling 2 3 times a week, and I can tell it's making me feel a lot better. I don't know what it's.
That's
I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that when it gets up in the 80s and the 90s, toward 100 degrees, and out in the sun, because I don't do so well in the heat.
right.
And but I want to continue doing that. But I find a lot of inspiration in the fact that I'm out with the four elements when I'm out there, and
Yes.
being on the water, you feel all that energy. And I've gotten some ideas for stuff. Haven't written any songs yet because it's just a little too bright.
Not dark enough out there on the water for you?
Dark. One of my friends I was paddling with the other day, and I paddled underneath. There was a very low bridge, and I paddled underneath. And he said, "I guess you're a lot more comfortable under there in the dark." I don't know what he meant by that.
I don't know what he meant by that either. I can't imagine. That is so cool. So what are you working on these days? You've been I've been listening. You're putting out songs all the time. You're sharing your work with everybody. And oh, sorry, I just banged up real good over here. I've been listening to your stuff on Bandcamp and everything. I mean, this is really cool. What are you working on at the moment?
Well, at the moment, I have four songs that I need to finish, and
Woohoo.
but the spirit will move me. I've got enough for if I still did, what I call an album. I've got enough to do that if I would just get off my butt and record them. But moving this year from East Tennessee to Arkansas took up a huge amount of time and energy and money,
Yep.
and I'm still in the phase of trying to get my life um, 100% back to what I would consider my normal. I'm very close. I'm very happy with what I've gotten done so far. I'd like to have running water. I have to tell you that, but
Wow.
it, it's it's okay. I have water right outside my cabin, and if I need to, you remember Vicky at the
Yep. I
Hidden
sure
Acres,
do.
I have the ability to go down and at least get a shower when I need it, but I try not to bother them. They've been so good to me, and to have friends like that that just out of love will say you can come and live here.
Yes.
Get a camper, get something, come and live here, and just to be completely your family. To have somebody treat me like that, my family never treated me like that.
Right.
And it's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful place to be. But like I said, I'm still trying to get my life together. So there's a lot of my energy that's devoted to that, and again to paddling. And no paddling jokes, please.
Okay.
It was very bad. It needed to be punished. So and, that's what's going on. And I am working on material. I actually have 2 or 3 shows booked for
Oh, awesome.
one for Beltane, and because so many people around here are getting their vaccinations now, and I've got to go back to Tennessee for a couple of weeks. As soon as I get back, I'm gonna start trying my best to get on the list and get my vaccination because I have been living in isolation. I
Yes.
go out. I would go out to go to the store or the hardware store, and I got on 2 masks, and, you know, drying my hands out completely with alcohol, and it's weird to live like that, as you know.
Agreed. Yeah. I've been doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm here with my sister and my brother-in-law, and they don't understand me, but they love me very much. And This is where I've landed, and it's, I get it. I mean, and we just had a COVID scare in the house because my sister works outside of the home, and she was sick for 2 weeks. And we went through waiting for her to have test results come back, two different tests, because the first one was a rapid and it said no, she didn't have COVID, but the doctor's like, you've got COVID. So we had another test done, and so for like 2 weeks, we're all in masks in the house when we're around each other, and it's been a crazy ride. We didn't go anywhere for 2 weeks. I mean, I didn't walk out the door. I walked out the back door to the trees in the backyard, but I didn't go anywhere. Had groceries delivered and the whole 9 yards, and everything's fine. She doesn't have COVID, and she's feeling better. But yeah, it's been this like year and change, and it's still going to be a little bit longer, right? I can't
It is.
get. I'm in Florida, and so that means I'll probably have to wait a little bit longer than most folks my age to get a shot. And so I'm just biding my time and kicking back until they open up my age group, and and
They just
and get
opened
it.
them.
What?
They just opened mine. Just
Well,
yesterday, the governor announced that, they were going to open it. Of course, there's so many people here, like in Florida, they're like, I ain't getting that shot. Okay,
oh,
bye.
listen, I'm getting vaccinated because I can't tour until I'm vaccinated, and most of the people I know are. I,
Right.
and part of it is I don't want to get sick because I really can't get sick. But the other part of it is I don't want to be a carrier.
Exactly.
And when you're on the road, you're like touching and around everybody, and you're in stores, and 5 minutes later you're gone and you don't know who you've been around. And I just don't want to infect everybody, like typhoid Mary carrying COVID around. So once I'm vaccinated, I'll feel a lot better. I do have some stuff booked in the late fall, because by then I'm pretty sure it'll be safe to move around the country. So
Well, one thing that I appreciate is that most of the pagan people, are at least educated to the point that they're not going around saying it's a hoax.
right,
And I feel like 95% of them are going to get in the line and get their vaccination. So we've got that going for us. We don't have that right wing Christian thing where, oh, it's bullshit. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You'll have to edit that out.
no,
But
I'm not editing that out. Are you kidding?
I don't know. I've been on my best behavior. You notice that I haven't used any of my Samuel L. Jackson quotes so far.
Hey.
But it's been very difficult because you had been playing pagan music for years and years, and
Yep.
when I started, and you were there the very first gig that I played at Mystic South that I started doing this.
Yep.
I had no idea what I was fixed to step into. And, I talked to you about it, and I talked to Danny Moulton with the Wafa, and he was like, oh, you got to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay. And then, all of a sudden, I've got all these bookings. And so I had like a couple of years there where I'm playing all the time, and I was very happy. And then COVID, and it just kicked me hard.
Yeah.
And I know it has to everybody in the entertainment business. I don't know if do you remember Star Bustamante from
Yeah.
Mystic South?
Yeah.
Her husband is a videographer. I think
Yes.
that's the right word, because he travels with like U2, and he's traveled with Prince and all these
Yep.
big names. And most people don't think about all the support people, all the crew that are out there that make these people sound and look like they look. There's hundreds of people with every act, and so
Yep.
many of these people are just suddenly without any work, and most of them don't have anything to fall back on. This is what they've done for all these years, and suddenly it's just they have the rug pulled out from under them. So I feel pretty good about myself. I've got something to fall back on. I've got a place to live. I have no mortgage. And I know that a lot of my friends and a lot of people who are in the entertainment business are really, really hurting because there's nothing to fall back on. It's like, you know, what are you going to do? Go try to get a job at Walmart? What have you done
Right.
in the past? Well, I was a roadie for U2. We don't have any openings for roadies.
Right. You know what? The really cool thing about the community that you and I spend most of our time in is that a lot of people really have embraced us, not just as entertainers, but as friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been, I mean, I have felt supported through every crisis that I've had on the road in the last 10 years working in this market. Um, I mean, from landing in a hospital and having emergency surgery to, you know, and 6 months, 6 weeks recovery time and sleeping in a friend's spare room, you know, in a city where I don't really know anybody, um, you know, you know, there's a hurricane coming to Florida. I was going to be in Florida this week. I can't. Does somebody have some open space for me? And having hands raised all over the country and go come to my place, you know. And it's just it's so wonderful to have that kind of community support. And it, you know, not to take advantage of it, but it's so good to know that it's there and that it really is an honest offer of support when we need it the most. And and I like to think that we give it back, you know, that we share stories, and that we for you and I individually, that we write music that touches people on a certain level and gives them a gift that maybe somebody else can't, you know.
Yes.
So
And you, I know you have people that communicate with you and tell you that that song, what you said that particular time, it made an impact on me. It made me think, and that's worth more than money to me. Of
yeah.
course, I can't buy coffee with that, but you know what I mean.
No, but it cracks my soul wide open when somebody says, "You made me cry." You know, it cracks my soul wide open when somebody says, "I haven't laughed that hard in months." Right? You know, if I'm doing the goofy, silly stuff. You
Yeah.
know, if I had a mission statement, it's that I want to make people feel something, because I think that we've walled ourselves off so much as a society, and I would just want people to feel something. And so when people say, "You made me cry, you made me laugh, you made me really feel guilty about that thing," you know, all of those things are wonderful for me, you know.
Well, our community is so supportive of each other. You've played other kinds of music
Mhm.
in your past,
Oh
so
yeah.
you know how cutthroat and competitive it is out there.
Crazy, crazy competitive.
When I was at the last PSG, when the flood came,
Yep.
well, you remember that my camp where I was in a hole, and the water was like literally over a foot and a half deep.
Yep.
I had walked away from camp with my umbrella, walking down, and it started to rain, and it started to pour. And by the time I walked back from down there was a torrent running through my camp.
Yep.
And Arthur Hines, bless his heart, waded into that sewage infused water to get my guitar off my table, which was beginning to move.
Yes.
And, I would have just been devastated if I had lost that guitar.
Oh, you
But
know what?
he,
Yes.
tell me about country musicians or rock musicians or other musicians that one of them would have waded into sewage
Right.
to save their competition. Not that I'm his competition, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That to save another musician's instrument just because he's that kind of person.
Yep.
He's a hero in my mind, aside from the fact of what he does medically.
Yep.
And I will never forget that. But I can't imagine that happening in a lot of situations where somebody would do that. And but that's the community that we have.
It is indeed.
We don't have the fake do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We actually have that going on, and I
We
have
do.
recognized that for a lot of years. Ever since I discovered there actually was a pagan community, I didn't know there
Yeah.
was one until about 25 or 30 years ago, and well, about 25 years ago, I thought I was the only one out there that was doing what I did.
You were the only one, Louis.
I was the only one, and if these people who wrote books, they were all over in Great Britain, and uh, chances are I wasn't going to run into any of them. But it's been a weird ride. I hope I get to ride a lot longer.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. So listen, where can people find your music right now?
Well, I'm on Bandcamp,
Okay.
and this is
All
a
right.
surprising and very difficult thing to do. You have to look up louisgarou.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
That was supposed to be funny, but it's not. And
And I will make it even easier for them and I'll put up a link so that they'll know where to do that.
they can also come to my Facebook site, which is open to the public, which is not always a good idea.
Excellent.
And,
Excellent. I'll put a link there too. Because I want people to hear this music. Hey, listen, I have a weird question.
okay.
Because I've only ever seen you write music. Do you does that creative urge ever go in other areas besides writing songs and playing music?
Not really. I don't have very many talents besides that.
You got a huge talent. That's cool. I wondered because I know that I mean musically that's where my focus is, but there have been different times in my life when I've done other things. I've worked in polymer clay for like 7 8 years, just like daily. On top of the music, I was like creating with my hands, and I found that there was some. It was a different kind of feeling flow with a different medium other than music. And I just wondered if you'd ever you chop wood and do stuff like that. So you've
I
got the physical and you kayak now, so you
Yeah,
so
I enjoy that. But before I had my cardiac event, I was farming full time, and on the tractor every day, pulling logs, cutting firewood, doing things like that. So there's not a lot of creative energy used to doing that unless you look at it from the standpoint, well, another day and not losing any body parts. That's a successful day when you're farming, and I
It's
do.
a successful day when you're a musician too. Just ask
I
me.
understand. I thought about that as soon as I said, please excuse me. Uh, but no, about the only other thing that I do, I build things. It's like I built my cabin that we lived in
Ah, yes, you
uh,
did.
East Tennessee. I can do that kind of thing. And I think there's a certain amount of art that goes into doing wiring and plumbing because I've seen some people do some of that work that it's a mess. Keep your line straight, run it where it's supposed to go. But I do like doing carpentry work. I just like working with wood, but I'm not doing any kind of artistic thing. It's just doing it correctly, and it's one of those things that I don't have to think to do it.
Right.
Finally, after all these years, learn to use the skill set.
Woohoo!
Hey, if you
Power
can't
truth.
if you can't color and stay inside the lines, it is hard to operate a skill saw. I do
Ah.
not have, and this is sad to admit, I cannot take a crayon or a magic marker and color inside the line unless I stay way into it. I don't have that skill level. My hand-eye coordination just does not work out like that. Isn't that sad? I
I
missed that. I missed that week in first grade apparently.
I think it's great that you color outside the lines. We need more people that think like that.
Mm-hmm. You know, I have a problem with that box. I want to be
Well,
in the box.
I think most of us creative folks do. None of us want to be in the box. You know, I don't want
Absolutely.
I don't want to write about the stuff that everybody else is singing about on the radio. I don't want to use the same sounds that everybody uses on all of their records. I don't want to wear makeup on stage anymore. I don't want
Me
to.
either.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, I don't want to do all the things. And in fact, you know what's funny is years ago, and I mean like 40 years ago, I was in a show band where every night was glitz and glamour and rhinestones and shiny lame and everything. And my costumes were always outrageous, and the makeup and the hair and the whole thing. And I remember getting ready for work one night. I lived with the drummer. We lived on the road together for this band. And I remember looking at him one night and I'm putting my makeup on, all of it. And I said, I just want to be like Natalie Merchant of 10,000 Maniacs and just go out on stage and sing in a frumpy dress and not worry about what I look like. And he looked at me and he said, well, then do it. And I got the yes, and I said the yes, but I said yes, but I can't because everybody expects this of this band. But when I decided to come out on the road at 50, come back out on the road after raising my son at 50, one of the first things I decided was that if I wanted to have no makeup and a frumpy dress and just sit down in front of people and play my music and have them actually listen to the music and not worry about what I looked like, I did it, you know? And there's a place for us. We can be we can be exactly what we are and share what we know and what we've learned and what we create without compromising. And I kind of love that a lot.
I hear you.
Yeah. Well, gosh, it's been so good to see your face. Oh my goodness. I miss being on the road. I miss hugs. I miss you. Um, So I will put a note in I will put links to find you in the notes for this video. And oh my goodness, I just hope that we get to see each other before too much longer. That we can.
I think that we will. I think that a new president and the actions he's taken, I think that we're going to whip this thing and that we're going to get back. I don't think we're ever going to go back to what we were.
I don't want us to go back to what we were. I want us to be
And
better.
I
So
want I want to see the country do better. I want to see the people do better. And there's so many things that could be done to make our everyone's lives better if the leadership would just look at it from that standpoint. What can we do to make this a better country, to make this a better country for people to live in? And
yes.
maybe I wouldn't have to live in the dark all the time.
Yeah, but then what would you write about?
I don't know, hiding from the light. It's
Hiding
been
from the light.
it's
Yeah,
been wonderful to talk to you and to
it's
see
been
your
good.
face.
It's been good to talk to you. Listen, you be well, be safe, wear your mask until after you're safe and well vaccinated and all that good stuff. And we will see each other down the road for sure.
We will for sure.
Okay.
Good
Well,
night.
thank you. Good night.